The courtroom was already buzzing when she walked in, heads turned, eyebrows raised, and whispers spread like wildfire. A tall, striking black woman in a navy pantsuit with her hair in a dignified twist stepped through the double doors of Fulton County Courtroom 4B with silent authority. But instead of taking a seat like the rest of the observers, she walked straight past the rows of pew-like benches, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, and approached the front rail. The courtroom, filled mostly with white attorneys, paralegals, and the local elite, didn't know what to make of her. She didn't look like a clerk, didn't carry the badge of a lawyer, and didn't wear the weary posture of the everyday defendant. She looked important. But no one knew who she was. Not yet. That's when the bailiff, a bulky white man named Officer Curtis, blocked her path. "Ma'am, you can't be up here. You need to return to the gallery," he said, loud enough for others to hear. The woman paused, her eyes meeting his without flinching. "I was told to report to the bench," she said calmly. Curtis squinted at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "Who told you that? Because unless you've got a summons or subpoena in your hand, you're not stepping another inch forward. Back to the gallery. Now." She inhaled slowly, still holding her ground, then reached into her purse and handed him a small leather ID holder. He flipped it open, glanced, frowned, then scoffed. "Nice trick," he muttered. "Fake government ID. You really think you're gonna play pretend in a courtroom?" With that, he grabbed her by the arm, not forcefully at first but possessively, like he was showing everyone who was in charge, and started escorting her toward the exit. "Sir," she said evenly, "I suggest you take another look." "Yeah." Curtis sneered, dragging her more firmly. "And I suggest you go practice your little courtroom cosplay somewhere else. This ain't no TV show, sweetheart." But before she could respond, the doors to the judge's chambers opened. And out stepped Judge Ronald Whitaker, an aging white man with a long history on the bench and a reputation for being tough but fair. The courtroom fell silent. Curtis hesitated just long enough for the judge to see what was happening, and when he did, his eyes widened, and he nearly dropped the files in his hand. "Curtis!" the judge snapped, voice ringing across the room. "Unhand that woman immediately." The bailiff froze, his grip loosening slightly. "Sir, she was trespassing. Do you have any idea who that is?" Judge Whitaker thundered, descending the steps of the bench with rare urgency. "That is Deputy Inspector General Alexandria Cole, direct representative from the Department of Justice." Gasps rippled through the room like a shockwave. Curtis's mouth fell open. The woman calmly pulled her arm free, brushed off her sleeve, and fixed Curtis with a look of withering disappointment. "Told you to take another look." Judge Whitaker stepped beside her. "Miss Cole, I am so sorry. If I'd known you'd arrived early, I would have come to greet you myself." She nodded coolly. "Thank you, Judge. I understand." Curtis stood paralyzed, sweat forming at his temples, realizing he'd just manhandled a federal official who could likely end his career with a single report. "Bailiff," the judge said grimly, "report to my chambers after court. We'll be having a very serious conversation." Alexandria Cole adjusted her blazer and stepped forward, all eyes now laser-focused on her. "As of this morning," she announced clearly to the court, "I have been assigned by the Office of Inspector General to observe and investigate judicial conduct and procedural compliance in this court, especially in cases involving civil rights and discriminatory rulings." Dead silence. Not a cough. Not a shuffle. Just tension so thick you could slice it with a gavel. "Today's proceedings," she continued, turning to the stunned courtroom, "will be under federal observation. Let's proceed." What no one knew, not yet, was that Alexandria's presence wasn't just protocol. It was personal. Because sitting quietly at the defense table, wearing a faded suit and trembling hands, was her younger brother, Darius Cole, wrongly accused of resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. The case had been fast-tracked, mishandled, and burdened with lies from day one. And Alexandria had watched silently from afar, until now. The courtroom began its proceedings, but the air was different. Everyone knew something had shifted. Lawyers whispered nervously. The prosecutor, a smug assistant DA named Richard Manning, kept glancing at Alexandria like she was a bomb waiting to explode. The judge tried to maintain composure, but even his voice wavered slightly when he read the docket. Darius sat still, eyes flicking between his sister and the bench, uncertain whether to feel hope or fear. He hadn't seen her in years, not since the family split, Not since Alexandria took a job in D.C. and disappeared into the world of policy and law. But now here she was. In his courtroom. On his case. And something in her face said, "Not this time. You won't break him this time." As the trial unfolded, Alexandria didn't interrupt, but she watched everything. When Officer Ryan Daniels, the arresting officer, took the stand and claimed Darius had lunged at him without provocation, Alexandria's pen stopped. She raised an eyebrow. She knew the pattern. This was textbook. Inflate the threat, justify the excessive force, paint the black suspect as aggressive. When the prosecutor nodded in approval, she caught it. When the judge didn't object to the leading questions, she caught that too. By the lunch recess, Alexandria had made 2 pages of notes. She wasn't just watching for Darius, she was building a case of her own. Back in the hallway, Curtis tried to avoid eye contact. Reporters hovered like vultures, not sure whether to approach. But one young intern whispered to her boss, "Is that her? The one from the OIG task force?" "Looks like it," he muttered. "This court's about to get cracked wide open." But just as the afternoon session resumed, and the judge took the bench again, something strange happened. A man in a plain black hoodie entered the back of the courtroom. No one noticed at first, until Alexandria turned slightly and saw him. Her eyes narrowed. She recognized him immediately. Marcus Redd. Former Atlanta PD. Fired for planting evidence. Known informant. And now, sitting quietly, arms folded, staring at Darius. A threat. Alexandria shifted uncomfortably in her seat. This wasn't just about legal retaliation now. They were watching her brother. Probably watching her too. She sent a quick text to her federal liaison, "Marcus Redd in courtroom. Confirm why. He's not on witness list." No response. The next witness was called, Officer Jenna Crawford, Danielle's partner. She repeated the same shaky story. Darius, charged without warning, tried to strike Daniels, and was foaming at the mouth. Alexandria blinked. Foaming? The theatrics were getting absurd. She checked the body cam timestamp again. Something was off. The time didn't match the police report. And worse, there were 6 minutes missing from the footage. When she looked up, she caught Officer Crawford glancing nervously at the door, then at Marcus Redd. Something was wrong. She scribbled a note and passed it to Ramos, Darius's court-appointed lawyer. He glanced at it, eyes widening. He stood. "Your Honor, the defense requests a temporary recess. New information regarding the chain of custody and surveillance footage has just come to our attention." The judge frowned. "You're disrupting sworn testimony, counselor." "Respectfully, Your Honor, this is a matter of potential evidence tampering." Judge Whitaker blinked. 10-minute recess. "Miss Cole, a word in chambers." She followed, calm as ever, but the second the door shut behind them, the judge leaned in. "Alexandria, what are you doing?" "My job," she said evenly. "And what you just witnessed might be obstruction of justice." "This isn't Washington," the judge snapped. "This is my courtroom." "Not anymore," she replied. "Not if you let fake testimony pass as truth and evidence go missing on your watch." They stared each other down, 2 legal giants in a silent battle. And outside that door the storm was growing. Because what no one in that courtroom yet realized was that Marcus Redd wasn't the only one watching. There was a second informant, someone on the prosecution's side, leaking information in real time to a private group chat tied to a rogue judicial network. And they had one message circulating. "Get Alexandria Cole out of that courtroom. By any means necessary." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The tension in Fulton County Courtroom 4B had reached a boiling point, but Alexandria Cole sat with a composure that made even the most seasoned attorneys nervous. Her sharp eyes scanned everything, the witnesses, the documents, the subtle glances, and especially the man in the back of the courtroom, Marcus Redd, the disgraced former cop whose very presence signaled one thing: intimidation. She knew how these games were played. She'd spent years investigating corruption at the highest levels, watching how those in power bent rules in plain sight, manipulating evidence and pressure points to protect their own. But this time they picked the wrong courtroom and they messed with the wrong family. While the judge and defense discussed the missing 6 minutes of body cam footage behind closed doors, Alexandria opened her secure DOJ tablet and began cross-referencing timestamps. The report claimed the altercation happened at 2:14 p.m., but the footage began at 2:09 p.m. and then skipped straight to 2:17 p.m. That's not just a glitch. That's a surgical cut. The footage skipped over the most crucial moment of the arrest, likely the moment where Darius was either assaulted or framed. She opened a secure message to her contact at Internal Affairs. Officer Daniels, upload your original body cam data from February 3rd. I want chain of custody and digital forensics. But she already knew it was gone. Meanwhile, Darius sat in the defense chair, hunched, palms sweating. He looked older than he was, like the system had drained years from his soul. It had been a long 3 months since the arrest, and though he hadn't told anyone, he'd considered taking a plea deal more than once. Because when you're black and poor and labeled a threat, the truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just sits there while your life is shattered. But now, his sister, whom he hadn't seen in 6 years, was sitting in the courtroom with a federal badge and eyes that said, "I believe you." That alone gave him something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The judge returned to the bench, a bit more tense than usual. Due to potential inconsistencies in the submitted body cam footage, he announced, "I am granting the defense a 48-hour recess to review supplemental evidence." Gasps erupted. The prosecution objected, but it was too late. Alexandria had quietly triggered a mechanism most people didn't know even existed: a federal override when civil rights violations are suspected in real time. Her authority wasn't just symbolic. It had legal teeth. Outside the courtroom, reporters hounded her for a statement. "Miss Cole, are you here because of a personal connection to the defendant? Are you accusing the Fulton County Court of misconduct? Did the judge know you were coming?" Alexandria gave no answers. She simply walked to her black government-issued SUV and drove back to her hotel, where 2 federal agents were waiting. Agent Vanessa Moore, a sharp-witted black woman in her 30s, and Agent David Lynn, a calm but lethal analyst with a background in cyber forensics. "We ran background on Marcus Red," Vanessa said. "He's been pinged on encrypted messages from an internal prosecutor's server. Codenames, slang, but we traced it. He's acting as a freelance fixer." "Paid by whom?" Alexandria asked. David turned the laptop toward her. "The burner account links to Richard Manning's financials." Alexandria's jaw clenched. The assistant DA himself. It was more corrupt than she thought. Manning wasn't just prosecuting Darius. He was orchestrating the entire case. Alexandria nodded. "Then we bring him down. But carefully. If they sense we're closing in, they'll bury the rest of the evidence, and maybe try something worse." Vanessa hesitated. "There's more. Red wasn't the only presence in the courtroom today. We identified another face." She pulled up a still from the courtroom camera, a middle-aged white man in a gray suit seated in the back corner. Name's Peter Langston. Used to work counterintelligence. Now private contractor. Linked to several intimidation operations against federal witnesses. "He was watching me," Alexandria muttered. "Not just Darius. Me." That night she didn't sleep. Instead, she reviewed every record from her brother's arrest. Something stood out. Officer Daniels claimed Darius was stopped due to a loitering complaint. But there were number 911 calls at that time in that location. None. Alexandria opened a warrant request for cell tower data in the area and filed a federal motion to seize Daniels' original arrest report. She knew it would ruffle feathers. She wanted it to. Meanwhile, inside the DA's office, Richard Manning stared at his screen as the alert came in. "Doge request. Chain of custody audit initiated." He cursed under his breath and slammed the laptop shut. "She's going to tank this whole case," he growled. Caroline, his paralegal, whispered, "Should we pull Langston back?" "No," he said. "Let him do what he needs to do. That woman's not untouchable." The next morning, Alexandria woke to find her hotel room door ajar. She pulled her firearm instantly, scanning the room. Nothing stolen. Nothing out of place, except a folded piece of paper on the nightstand. For words, "Your brother dies next." Her heart pounded. She called Vanessa. "Activate full protection detail. Darius is a direct target." "Already done," Vanessa replied. "We moved him to a secure DOJ holding suite. No one gets near him." Alexandria stared at the note. The message was clear. If you push too far, you lose family. But instead of backing down, she leaned in. That afternoon, she returned to the courthouse not just as an observer, but as a witness. During pretrial motions, she submitted a motion to testify under oath regarding misconduct she personally observed during the arrest review process. Objection. Manning cried. She is not part of this case. Your Honor, Alexandria said, rising, I am invoking Federal Rule 502 regarding disclosure of investigatory observations under official capacity. I have relevant testimony to offer. Judge Whitaker hesitated. Overruled. She may testify. The courtroom went still. Alexandria stepped to the witness stand, looked Manning in the eye, and said, What happened to my brother is not just injustice, it is criminal conspiracy. And I have the receipts. Gasps filled the room. She submitted copies of the missing footage request, the false 911 call logs, the financial trace linking Marcus read to Manning's office, and the photo of Langston in the courtroom. The judge looked like he'd aged 10 years. Manning turned red. Curtis, the bailiff, looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Darius? His hands trembled, but his eyes locked on hers with awe. His sister was burning down the machine. Piece by piece. But then, something no one expected. The fire alarm went off. Loud, shrieking, cutting through the courtroom. Emergency lights flashed. The judge shouted for order. Marshals moved to evacuate. People flooded toward the exits. But as Alexandria tried to reach Darius, Vanessa came charging through the chaos. They just pulled him from the DOJ suite. They impersonated agents. Darius is gone. Gone. Alexandria froze. Her brother had vanished. In the middle of a courthouse under federal protection. Kidnapped. Disappeared. And now, she had 24 hours to find him before it became a recovery operation instead of a rescue. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The sirens wailed through downtown Atlanta, and for the first time in years, Alexandria Cole's composure cracked. Her fingers trembled as she tightened the earpiece into her ear, barking orders into the secure DOJ channel while weaving through the flood of bodies evacuating the courthouse. Darius was gone, vanished from a federal protection suite inside a government building, and every second ticking by felt like a mile between life and death. Vanessa Moore, now leading the search effort, caught up to her near the SUV. Two men impersonated federal agents. They had legit-looking badges. One of them used your DOJ clearance code. Alexandria stopped in her tracks. My code. Vanessa nodded grimly. They used your signature to check him out of the safe suite. They had facial masks, gate tech, voice print mimics, next-level stuff. David Lynn was already working a laptop in the back seat of their vehicle. Traffic cams picked up a black van heading east at 2:43 p.m. No plates. No GPS. But they're pros. They disabled every feed within a 10-block radius after that. They knew the layout, Alexandria whispered. They knew our security rotations, the DOJ code, even my timing. Someone on the inside gave it to them. Vanessa looked at her. We have a mole. Alexandria's eyes burned with fury. Then we find them. And we take down every last person who thinks they can steal my brother and walk away breathing. They activated a DOJ Level 9 trace, a rare federal warrant that allowed them to triangulate burner phones within a 30-mile radius tied to DOJ IDs. Meanwhile, the U.S. Marshals prepared to notify the media, but Alexandria stopped them. No press. Not yet. If they know we're looking, they'll kill him. While the city above functioned like any other Wednesday afternoon, a storm churned beneath its surface. Inside a dim warehouse on the outskirts of Atlanta, Darius Cole was tied to a steel chair, blood dripping from a split lip, his eyes swollen shut. Two masked men paced around him, asking the same question. What did your sister send to the feds? Darius had no answer. He didn't know what Alexandria had done. All he knew was that one minute he was in a room guarded by two federal agents, and the next the guards were gone and two men with guns were dragging him into a hallway, zip-tying his hands, covering his face, and jamming something sharp into his ribs. He couldn't see their faces, but he heard the names. Langston wants it cleaned up. Manning says if he talks, we're all done. Better to end this before sunrise. Back at the DOJ Mobile Command Unit, Alexandria scrolled through data on Manning's financials. Vanessa pointed to a flagged transaction. $15,000 wired to a shell account traced to a Langston-affiliated security firm. Day of the abduction. David added, Cross-referenced warehouse leases within Langston's known safe zones. Narrowed to 3 locations. Alexandria didn't wait. Mount up. We hit all 3. Now. In simultaneous raids, teams stormed each location. 2 came up empty. But at the third, an abandoned trucking depot on the south side, they heard screams. Darius's screams. The team rushed in, guns drawn, breaching the door with a deafening bang. Inside, Darius was slumped over, barely conscious. His captors scrambled, but one was tackled immediately. The other pulled a gun, only to be dropped by a single echoing shot. Alexandria ran to her brother, falling to her knees. Darius, can you hear me? It's me. It's Lex. His eyes fluttered open, a weak smile cracking through the pain. Told you, you always show up late. She laughed, crying at the same time. I'm here now. The medical team moved in. But it wasn't over. The man they captured? His name was Alan Troy, former DHS contractor. And when interrogated under federal pressure, he broke fast. We were hired to disappear him. Make it look like a drug-related hit. Fentanyl plant in the lungs. Overdose setup. By who? Vanessa asked. Manning, he confirmed. And Langston. Said they'd bury us if we didn't follow through. Meanwhile, at the courthouse, news of the abduction spread anyway, leaked by a clerk sympathetic to Alexandria's cause. Social media erupted. #WhereIsDariusCole began trending. Protesters began gathering outside the courthouse. Civil rights attorneys issued statements. This is what happens when black men are treated like threats and not like people. If a federal judge's brother can be kidnapped during trial, what chance do the rest of us have? The judge called an emergency hearing. Manning for the first time looked shaken. But he tried to play it cool. Your Honor, this trial has become a circus, driven by media interference and federal theatrics. Alexandria stood in the gallery. No, Mr. Manning. This trial became a crime scene the moment you paid to have my brother abducted. The judge demanded evidence. Alexandria handed over the audio files, wire transfer records, and signed confessions. Gasp. Screams. The courtroom erupted. Manning was placed under immediate arrest. Langston was next. The courtroom fell into chaos. But outside, something even bigger was unfolding. Hundreds of people stood gathered in front of the courthouse steps, holding signs, chanting for Darius. A crowd had gathered to watch the corruption crumble. That night, Darius gave a short statement from his hospital bed. They wanted me gone because I didn't matter. Because I was poor. Because I was black. But my sister reminded me we matter. And we're not going anywhere. But just when it seemed justice had a chance, just when the case was collapsing and the corruption unraveling, Alexandria received a call from a blocked number. Miss Cole, the voice said calm and clear. Your brother was just the first warning. If you keep digging, we'll make sure you don't get a second. She hung up. But something about the voice chilled her more than anything. Because it was familiar. It wasn't Manning. It wasn't Langston. It was someone higher up. Someone within the Department of Justice itself. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. The night after Darius was found felt less like a victory and more like a pause between storms. Though Manning had been arrested, Langston detained, and the court of public opinion was burning in Alexandria's favor, she knew better than to relax. Power didn't fall quietly. It struck back. And the anonymous call she received still echoed in her ear, a voice she couldn't yet place but would never forget. Your brother was just the first warning. Alexandria didn't sleep. Instead, she stared at the ceiling of her DOJ-protected suite, playing the recording on loop, matching tone, inflection, speech pattern, searching her memory, racking her contacts. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was polished, bureaucratic. It belonged to someone trained in deception. Someone from inside. At 6:12 a.m. she got her answer. David Lynn sent a voice match result to her secure line. 89% probability. High-level clearance. Deputy Attorney General Maxwell Reed. Her boss. A man who, to the public, represented federal oversight and integrity. But to those who paid close attention, those like Alexandria, he'd always been too clean, too untouched, too friendly with dangerous people. And now, it was clear. He wasn't just watching the case. He was orchestrating it. Alexandria stared at the screen. Her hands didn't shake. Her breath didn't catch. Because something inside her had already shifted. This wasn't about saving Darius anymore. This was about dismantling the entire rotten foundation. "Vanessa," she said into her comms, "get me everything you can on Reed's off-book meetings in the last 90 days. Any unregistered visits to Fulton County. On it." She hung up and stared at the rising sun outside her hotel window. Time to burn it down. Back at the hospital, Darius was recovering, but he was different. Not just physically. Something in his soul had settled. He wasn't afraid anymore. "They already tried to kill me," he said to Alexandria that afternoon. "What else they got?" She smiled and kissed his forehead. "They have no idea what we've got." With Manning behind bars, the DA's office scrambled. They tried to reassign the case, but public outcry made that impossible. Protests outside the courthouse grew. Civil rights leaders flew in from around the country. Alexandria was invited to speak on the courthouse steps. "They didn't just try to bury my brother," she told the roaring crowd. "They tried to bury the truth. But what they forgot is, truth roots deeper than fear. And when you water it with justice, it grows into revolution." But her words didn't go unnoticed. That night, as Alexandria returned to her hotel with 2 agents, a sniper round cracked the windshield of her SUV. They ducked, slammed into reverse and sped away. "They're escalating," Vanessa muttered. That wasn't a message. That was an attempt. Alexandria didn't flinch. Good. That means they're scared. Meanwhile, inside a secret DOJ surveillance site in Arlington, Virginia, Deputy Attorney General Maxwell Reed sat in a private viewing room, watching Alexandria's courthouse speech on replay. "She's become a problem," he told the shadow beside him. "Then let's solve it," the voice replied. "That shadow?" U.S. Marshal Supervisor Henry Voss. The man in charge of Alexandria's protection detail. The same man who personally reassigned her agents the night Darius was taken. Back in Atlanta, Alexandria was preparing her final move, a federal grand jury presentation to indict Manning, Langston, and all co-conspirators including Reed. But she knew she couldn't just walk into court and present it. Not while they were watching. Not while Reed held influence. She had to take it straight to the people. That morning she appeared on national television, an exclusive interview on 60 Minutes. "This is bigger than my brother," she told the interviewer. "This is about the people who operate above the law. The people who run courtrooms like kingdoms and treat justice like property. And it ends now." She dropped names. She showed bank records. She linked Reed to the funding Shell used to pay for Darius's abduction. "Deputy Attorney General Maxwell Reed is compromised. And I have the documents to prove it." The interview exploded across every network. DOJ officials panicked. Senators called for an emergency inquiry. Reed issued a cold, rehearsed statement denying everything. This is a witch hunt led by a rogue agent abusing her authority. But Alexandria wasn't waiting for his spin. That afternoon she presented her sealed evidence to the Office of the Inspector General, triggering an automatic ethics investigation into Reed's conduct. But as the paperwork was filed and the dominoes began to fall, Alexandria received a video message to her personal DOJ account. Unlisted. Untraceable. She opened it. The screen flickered. Then showed live footage of her brother's hospital room. Darius was sitting up, reading. A red dot from a sniper scope glided across his chest. Then the screen went black. A distorted voice came on. "Back off, Alexandria. Or your brother gets a second chance to die." Alexandria froze. This wasn't over. Despite arrests, indictments, and national coverage, they still had reach. They still had access. She called Vanessa. "We need to move him. Now." But before she could finish, the line went dead. Then a message appeared on her screen. Too late. Alexandria screamed for her team to mobilize, grabbing her badge, her gun, her files. She burst into the hallway, only to be met by 2 men in black suits and DOJ badges she didn't recognize. "Agent Cole," one of them said coldly. "You're under internal investigation. You'll need to come with us." "On what grounds?" she snapped. Order 19-5A. Unauthorized disclosure of classified material. "I had whistleblower status. Your status has been revoked." "By who?" The man leaned forward. "Maxwell Reed." Her heart pounded. They were moving fast. Faster than she'd prepared for. She looked back toward her laptop, where all her files, recordings, and names were stored. She needed 5 more minutes. But now, they were dragging her toward the elevator. "You're making a mistake," she warned. "No," the agent said. "You did." And as the elevator doors closed around her, far away, at an undisclosed private medical suite, a figure in surgical scrubs approached Darius's bedside, holding a syringe behind his back. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The elevator descended like a casket, lowering into the ground. Alexandria Cole stood between 2 federal agents with cold eyes and fake badges, her wrists cuffed, her mind racing. Everything she'd built, her DOJ career, her public credibility, her pursuit of justice, was unraveling in real time. But what they didn't know, what they never saw coming, was that Alexandria was 10 steps ahead. Always had been. She had spent years taking down corruption, learning how it moved, how it smelled, how it covered its tracks. She knew that when powerful men got scared, they got sloppy. And now, they were panicking. The elevator descended like a casket, lowering into the ground. Alexandria Cole stood between 2 federal agents with cold eyes and fake badges, her wrists cuffed, her mind racing. Everything she'd built, her DOJ career, her public credibility, her pursuit of justice, was unraveling in real time. But what they didn't know, what they never saw coming, was that Alexandria was 10 steps ahead. Always had been. She had spent years taking down corruption, learning how it moved, how it smelled, how it covered its tracks. She knew that when powerful men got scared, they got sloppy. And now, they were panicking. 2 days ago, while the press focused on her televised interview, she quietly uploaded encrypted backups of every document, voice file, financial record, and surveillance video she had gathered, to 3 different secure drives, all programmed with one failsafe. If she failed to check in within 6 hours, they'd automatically release. To the press, to Congress, to civil rights groups, to the people. And while Reed and his cronies were busy framing her, they hadn't realized she had already set the truth free. Meanwhile, back at the private medical suite disguised as a rehab center, Darius Cole lay awake. The pain meds made it hard to focus, but his instincts hadn't dulled. When the nurse in scrubs stepped inside, he noticed right away: no ID badge, no clipboard, no warm greeting. Just a syringe glinting in their hand. Darius didn't speak. He waited. Watched. Then when the nurse leaned in, he moved. Despite the pain, despite the stitches and bruises, he kicked out with both legs, knocking the figure backward into a metal tray. The syringe clattered to the floor. The door burst open. 2 real federal agents tackled the fake nurse as alarms blared. Darius panted, heart racing. That was the 2nd time in a week someone tried to kill him. And this time he was ready. At the DOJ facility, the elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. Alexandria's captors shoved her out. But they weren't met with silence. Instead, standing in the hallway were 4 federal officials in full tactical gear, real agents from the Office of the Inspector General. Their guns were drawn. "Step away from Agent Cole," the lead agent barked. "Now." The fake agents raised their hands, stunned. "We have orders." "Your orders were forged," the lead officer cut in. "Deputy AG Reed has been relieved of duty pending criminal investigation. Your access is revoked. Move." The 2 men were cuffed and hauled away. Alexandria stared at the agents. "How?" she whispered. The lead agent smiled. "Your backup drive went live 15 minutes ago. Half of DC is on fire. The press, Congress, everyone knows. You were right." They blinked first. She exhaled for the first time in hours. Across the country, news stations broke the story: DOJ corruption exposed by whistleblower official. Alexandria Cole's name was everywhere. The files she released had everything: Reed's bank transfers, Manning's phone recordings, Langston's personnel records, the plot to silence Darius, and more. Social media exploded. The hashtag Cole Files trended globally. Protesters marched with signs saying "Justice for Darius," "Alexandria told the truth," and "This system must fall." By nightfall, Reed was taken into custody, his reputation shattered. Langston was indicted on federal conspiracy charges. Manning was denied bail. Fulton County was placed under emergency audit. And Alexandria Cole? She walked free. No longer just a DOJ official. Now a symbol. Back at the hospital, Darius hugged his sister tightly. "You saved my life," he whispered. She smiled, holding back tears. "No, Dee. We saved it. Together." Within days, the charges against him were not just dropped. They were dismissed with prejudice, and the judge issued a public apology. A rare moment of accountability. But Alexandria didn't stop there. She pushed for an emergency hearing before Congress. She gave testimony, under oath, about systemic targeting of black defendants, corruption in courtrooms, and the silent war on whistleblowers. Her story lit a fire in communities around the country. Court watchers began appearing at every hearing. Local leaders began organizing legal aid funds. Black attorneys began fighting back in bigger numbers. The world had changed. Not because the system suddenly grew a conscience, but because one black woman refused to stay silent. Refused to be dragged out of court and forgotten. Refused to let her brother become another statistic. And even when they tried to take her down, they forgot one thing. You can't bury the truth when the people are watching. Months later, Alexandria was promoted, not quietly but publicly, to Assistant Inspector General for Civil Rights Oversight, the youngest ever appointed to the role. And Darius? He started law school. In an interview a year later, when asked why she risked everything, Alexandria answered simply, "Because we're done begging to be seen. Now we're here to be reckoned with." Never underestimate the power of one voice, especially when it speaks for justice. The system might be built to silence you, drag you out, and break you. But when you stand firm in the truth and refuse to be erased, you become the reckoning. Justice isn't given. It's demanded and protected by people brave enough to fight for it, even when it costs them everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. The end.